Hey everyone, this is Starcraft Dad, and welcome back to another game of Starcraft 2. This game is between Bojenkins playing Zerg in the red, and CuePhoenix playing Terran in the blue on the map Nerazim Crypt in the third season of the Blizzard Online Ladder. Today's players are playing on a new map that's new for Season 3, Nerazim Crypt, and each player comes with your basic starting setup with a bunch of minerals and gas, and a small base that's kind of this elongated shape with a very narrow choke point up here. You can see CuePhoenix coming over to build his starting supply depot. Right outside of this narrow ramp is a nice little natural expansion here that's pretty easily guarded by this smaller choke point with these rocks here and these hiding bushes. So players can set up a nice defense in this area for their two bases. And then continuing on to the right, there's a large ramp going down to a third expansion down here. Between each base, as we can see the Zerg player coming in, scouting with his drone here, and CuePhoenix starting his wall with his barracks, which is pretty standard against Zerg, and CuePhoenix trying to keep this drone busy here. From the front of each base, going to the left, you can see that they travel down to their other opponent. So there's a Xel'Naga tower here, and if you keep going, there's another Xel'Naga here. So this is a pretty mirrored map, and you can see the path that the Zerg drone took. Let's use some arrow keys to navigate here. So here's the Zerg's base with a similar setup, with the hiding brush, the third expansion on the right, and the rocks here making the choke a little bit smaller, and the Zerg's natural expansion. And then up into the Zerg base, where we can see the Zerg player Bojenkins is already building his spawning pool, which is a good defensive measure, and building gas, which can indicate that he's going for some kind of roach build at the beginning. Both players doing pretty standard starts to their two strategies. This drone being chased back by this SCV. He's almost dying, but he jumps inside the gas where he's harder to get to. So SCV getting a good look at what's going on here. So he can see the gas, CuePhoenix can see the spawning pool, and he should be thinking either a fast tech up to the Zergling speed, which makes the Zerglings faster, or some kind of roach build. So this SCV traveling back home, you can tell he's going back through the brush there, and it looks like he's heading his way up to the Xel'Naga tower. So this will be a key part of this game. For sure, these Xel'Naga towers provide vision over a wide range of areas. So this Xel'Naga tower gives CuePhoenix, we pop on the CuePhoenix vision here, you can see that he has vision over this entire area, and most importantly this entire area leading up into the front of his base. So he'll be able to see any kind of incoming attack coming from Bojenkins before it hits the front door. CuePhoenix going for a double barracks front, which is pretty standard again. Maybe he'll be bringing these Marines over for some early pressure. And again in a standard opening, Bojenkins starting his natural expansion. Now you may think at 4 minutes into the game that Bojenkins is starting this pretty early, but this is pretty standard. The reason for this is that the Zerg units tend to be a little squishy. So the Zerg's strength is in building lots of units and sending those units in lots of waves against their opponent. But in order to do that, they have to have a lot more money, a lot more resources mined, so they tend to expand sooner. Terran in this case has a nice little wall in, trying to prevent Zerglings from coming into the base and attacking the units, since the Zerg can make a lot of units at the front if they intend to. But it looks like CuePhoenix is going to send this group of Marines out to kill these Zerglings and go in for some early pressure. So he's got about 9 Marines here making their way across the map. So we can see Zergling's metabolic boost being researched by the Zerg player, and that's done. A couple of Marines coming in from the Terran player, and a bunch of Zerglings being made immediately in defense. So here you can see an advantage of the Zerg player is that one of the advantages of building the second hatchery is he's going to have a lot of ability to make a lot of units very quickly. So these Marines are going to do some damage. They've already killed the Queen, which is pretty good, and they're making work on this hatchery here, and these Zerglings are going to come in and clean them up. Now they've got a somewhat of a reduced surface area by staying in here. This is another tactic that you'll see a lot in Terran versus Zerg games. So you can see the Zerg was able to kill off the Terran with a fair number of units, 14. That's 14 Zerglings compared to 9 Marines which is a pretty good return on investment for the Zerg player. But had the Marines retreated to some area where there's a little less surface area for the Zerg to spread out on for a surround, they would have done a lot better. But regardless, Bojenkins holding off that attack. We take a look at the income tab, and we can see that they're on par for income, but with this, actually CuePhoenix with a little extra on gas, but Bojenkins with an expansion here is going to be able to mine a whole lot more. And if we look in the unit production tab, he's only, that's interesting, he's only building one drone. He could be building a lot of drones at the same time. So as we've, okay, so some Zerglings going out just to check things out. Really, Bojenkins wants to have these Zerglings out so you can see when there's any kind of move out from CuePhoenix. You can see CuePhoenix has a bunch of Marines already. He's already up to 14. He's now up to a 3rd barracks, so he's up to 3 barracks and researching STEM, which is almost done, and building a factory. So CuePhoenix is teching up, building an orbital, upgrading to an orbital command, researching his armor upgrades. So these Marines are going to be pretty strong and pretty powerful, and they're coming out. There's about 15 of them. Bojenkins looks like he's built a couple of spine crawlers. Okay, he's built a lot of spine crawlers. I guess just 3 here, and a handful of roaches and some Zerglings. So these spine crawlers, I think they were used to be up here, and so he moved them down to his natural expansion. So you can see this choke point in action here. So these Marines are going to come in, and they're going to have a bunch of trouble against these roaches. Are really strong against Marines, but so are spine crawlers with their increased range. These roaches could come up and do quite a bit of damage here. So even STEM, these Marines didn't do very much damage at all. They couldn't even kill this one spine crawler. Over time, this spine crawler is going to heal itself with the Zerg healing ability. And you can see that between these 2 hatcheries, between this one and this one, which is now upgraded to a lair, Bojenkins will be able to produce a lot of units at the same time. With the queens, he can get 7 larvae out of this one and 7 out of this one. That's 14. That's equivalent to having 14 barracks or 14 command centers. And over here you can see CuePhoenix is beginning to build his 2nd command center, so he's going to be late here. If you look on the economy side, Bojenkins is just screaming ahead on the economy. Oh, well, they're close, but he is ahead. And if you would devote a little bit more into drone production, as you can, oh, there, look there. See, he's building 5 drones at once. So Bojenkins trying to push ahead in the macro game. Has a nice little defensive area back there. He's gone up to roaches, researching the roach speed ability to make them faster on creep. Should be building another queen, or at least having this queen produce some, increasing his creep spread here. So we should see that soon. So you can see a lot of larvae up here. So he's got it around to 7 there. So he should be pretty comfortable. We take a look at the army supply tab. See, he's very high on workers because he can, when he wow, he's very high on workers, almost double the worker supply. So you can see that when Zerg is established that the Terran is holing up inside their base, they can flip the switch and have their hatcheries produce a lot of drones, giving them lots of income. And then when they're ready to attack, they can take those hatcheries and flip them around and produce all army units. So that's the general flow of the Zerg game. He's researching an attack upgrade for melee units, which is kind of interesting. So that's going to help all of the Zerglings, but it's not going to help these roaches. So looks like he's kind of devoting himself to a roach army here, and I would expect a spire to be produced. He took the time to go up to layer technology, so I would expect a spire to be produced. But if you look in the CuePhoenix camp, he's got a pretty robust defense up here. After seeing those roaches at the base defense, he's building siege tanks. He's already got siege mode researched, so his tanks are going to be pretty strong. And he's already researched STEM, already researched combat shields, so his Marines are going to be pretty strong, and he's now researching a weapons upgrade. So CuePhoenix's units are pretty strong at this point. They've got upgraded, these tanks are out, so you've got 2 tanks already covering the front of the base, a bunch of Marines on the low ground, a bunker, and a bunch of Marines on the high ground. So this front door is pretty set. Even has a Marine over here to kind of keep an eye on this side. So Bojenkins is going to have to macro up in this in the face of this defense, and you can see he's doing just that, setting this drone down here to start a 3rd expansion. So Zerg in general tries to be 1 expansion up on the Terran. So this is just working plenty well for Bojenkins. You can see he's much higher on the supply count, 91 to 71. Looking at the worker supply, he's not quite at double. CuePhoenix starting to catch up here, but Bojenkins is starting to be lower on the army supply. But if we look over here, back in the main base, you can see up in the supply tab, he's building a macro hatchery. So as mentioned before, Zerg can only make units out of hatcheries. So now he's going to have 4 between all of his 4 bases. So that's a great ability for him to make lots of units all at once. And you can see that he's storing up lots of money here and building the spire. So he should be able to make a whole ton of Mutalisks all at once, which is going to give him a lot of ability to harass the Terran player. CuePhoenix, already sensing this, has 4 missile turrets back at his base near the mineral line. This should give him a pretty good defense from Mutalisk harass coming from this direction. And a missile turret up there. Should be trying to... You can see these buildings are pretty exposed. There's not a lot of air power here to defend. And building a couple of missile turrets in the back to defend this mineral line. But, 3, which is okay. But the real advantage of the Mutalisks, which are... little flock right here, 5, is that they can pretty much go anywhere in the map from any direction that they want to. And so the Zerg player can kind of poke around with the Mutalisks and cause a lot of harassment, distract the Terran player from their plan. So he's going to put that tank in siege mode. So now we've got a pretty good set. We've got 4 tanks here covering this front door. So this is going to be a pretty strong front door. And this next hatchery is just started. Bojenkins really should go ahead and transfer a bunch of drones from this main mineral line over to this third one. Stacking a lot of drones on the same mineral patch is not as effective as having them spread out. So now we're up to 8 Mutalisks, which is pretty good. He's going to come in and see what's going on in the Terran base. He really needs to ball them up together. In small groups of like 3, the Mutalisks aren't too powerful, but in a large group, 8 is okay. But if he comes in here, he's going to run into a lot of trouble from these missile turrets. Let's look at their health and see what he decides to do here. So Terran has a pretty good ability to turtle up and build a lot of defenses to defend their bases. Zerg doesn't have that ability as much. Oh, okay, so back off, back off. Oh, that's the... Yeah, that was a bad move there. Because as you ran up the side, he just got hit by more and more missile turrets. But he maintained 6 at full health, which is not too bad. So he only lost 2, and that's pretty good. Should be able to come over and pick up this SCV. Looks like he's not going to do that.